Hello, I'm Mario Toneguzzi, and this is Taking Care of Business. Joining me today is Jeff Brown, who is small and medium business leader for Equifax Canada. Thanks for joining us, Jeff.
Mario, thanks for having me.
All right, interesting report that Equifax came out with today. It kind of very positive in some ways. A revival of small business in Canada. Tell me a little bit about that and what you guys are seeing.
Yeah, I mean, in the time during the pandemic where everybody's focusing on businesses closing and things really shutting down, it's really interesting to look at the numbers that we've seen in number of net new businesses setting up and being financially active. We went through and looked at our data here over the past quarter. We've really seen a really surge in number of net new businesses that have set up. In comparison to overall last year, there's actually been over 60,000 net new businesses set up here in Canada, compared to during the pandemic when everything was really shuttered down. So it really gives us a cause to really believe that what's happening here is positive, that the support that the federal government's been providing have really been supportive, and that Canadians are still seeing opportunities to expand and really bring our economy out of this dark winter that we've been going through.
So what are some of the factors that you think are in place right now that are, I guess, sparking some of this interest in people, starting up small businesses?
I think really what we've seen is there's been a few industries that have had really good opportunities. I mean, it's kind of the have and the have not. When you look at something like the construction industry, the amount of net new businesses that have set up around there is actually quite strong. And where we see that is really Alberta and on the east coast of Canada. So even though the cost of lumber has gone up, 3 times, there's still a demand. I mean, and it's directly tied to what's happening there in the housing market. So when we see, net new houses being set up, transacting, and new builds happening, I mean, there's always going to be a demand for all the trades that are associated with it. So a strong housing market has really boded well for small businesses.
Okay, and you mentioned Alberta and Atlantic Canada. What are some of the factors taking place in those two provinces that are lifting the revival, I guess, of small business?
Yeah, and when you look at both those provinces, it's kind of like a paradox as well, because we've heard, we've talked about previously, and all the negative occurrences and all the the surge in delinquencies that have happened in both those areas. And really what we're seeing with this is, again, an opportunity that's really risen up from certain parts in the housing market and in the service industry. So in areas where a lot of small business owners may be fatigued and essentially self-selected to close their doors, there's been a new surge of Canadians who want to be entrepreneurs and set up their businesses, who are really taking on that charge. So we're not at the same levels of growth that we were pre-pandemic, but all signs are really showing us that we're going to get there.
Oh, great. Super. Let's talk a little bit about some of the other aspects of the report that was released today. One was looking at small business credit. What does that look like in Canada today?
Yeah, so the reason that we wanted to really talk about this as well is that, again, pandemic, everybody's assuming that bills aren't being paid and that everybody's really hurting. And really what our data has shown us is that 30-day delinquencies, 60-day plus delinquencies, they've actually taken a dramatic dip during the pandemic. And really what's happened is all this industry government-backed loans that have been extended out have been used to pay off debt obligations with lenders and suppliers across Canada. So it means, banks and suppliers have really seen some really good business during the pandemic, because all the money that was provided by the government has been used to pay off those debts. So they haven't had to do as much triage, much work with small businesses, because they've been artificially inflated from what's been going on. So again, it's seen kind of a record dip. Now that these subsidy programs are starting to be pulled away and pivoted, that should see an increase here shortly. And it's also really going to put a lot of pressure on lenders and suppliers across Canada to really understand what a post-pandemic or a post-government subsidy small business really looks like. So there should be really good opportunities for small businesses across Canada here as we enter Q1 and Q2, because again, there's going to be a fight for their business. There's been a really dip in credit demand, and as it enters into 2022, they're going to be fighting for their business. So it just works so positive for small businesses moving forward.
Yeah, How important have all those federal government support programs how important have they been for the financial health of a lot of these businesses in Canada?
They've been critical. I mean, you really have to speak well to the federal government being able to provide these programs out, whether it was the CEBA loans program, CEWS, any sort of rent assistance program that was set out during the pandemic. They did really keep small businesses afloat. So in the change just this past month in deciding to shutter some of those down, what our data has shown is it's actually the right move from the federal government. All those funds were bringing down delinquencies, and they've really tried to target the few industries that are going to have a slow revival into 2022. So things like the food services, the hospitality space, everything we've seen in the news recently on the supply chain. So the federal government is very in tune with what's going on there. And again, they've been very, very important as we move forward. What they're also going to be looking at as well as we head into next year is the CEBA loans. I mean, with there being over $49 billion extended to over 75% of the small businesses in Canada, they want to make sure that these loans are being paid back before interest starts accruing. So when we look at Q1, they're going to be looking at the percentages of who's paying back, what's going on there, because when these programs are originally set up, they were meant to just last essentially for the year or for the short period that we thought the pandemic was going to be. So they're going to be watching these, and if they don't see a strong repayment history, look for them to be extending the repayment history or the repayment period for these, and prolonged interest on these as well. So these programs have been vital, and with them slowly being shuttered down, it's really an indication that we are starting to get closer back to a normal activity.
All right, super. Anything else from today's report, Jeff, that struck you as interesting?
So really the uneven impact of the pandemic, it's been an ongoing theme here as well. So just looking at more businesses opening in Quebec versus other provinces as well. The increase in inquiries that we're expecting to see here in Q1. Really what we're looking at as well is during the initial part of the pandemic, lenders and suppliers were really checking in on small businesses every single month, trying to understand exactly, who is going to be a have-not, who do they need to provide extra help during the pandemic. And we've seen inquiry levels drop about 25% here during 2021. So what that means is that there's a level of comfort that lenders and suppliers have across Canada, which again bodes well for small businesses. So when they go through and start asking for credit and extensions on loan or working capital, that there's a good, strong understanding about what's going on with them. So again, when they ask for larger terms or better credit terms, these organizations are going to be in a better standing to be able to offer what's there.
Yeah, excellent. Well, thanks very much, Jeff, for joining us today.
Mario, thank you very much.
All right, super. That's Jeff Brown, who is a small and medium business leader with Equifax Canada. I'm Mario Toneguzzi. This has been Taking Care of Business. Thanks for joining us today.